Okay, so hi everyone, I just had to deal with the camera. I think, well, because it's cutting off the top of my head, which isn't great. I just have to pull this. Oh well. So today's video, I'm just going to adjust things even though, is on, well, it's going to be on the topic of filtration, and that's designed generally at high flow, high waste fish, or sort of Loricariidae in general. So here I have my external filter, and I use Eheim entirely for my filtration. I have no issue with people using let me grab one, a traditional sponge filter, especially on breeding tanks, but generally if you're doing a higher stock tank or display tank, I would almost entirely always go with an external, and I just think they got a much better turnover. You'll be cleaning it a lot less, unlike internals when you try and clean it, the waste doesn't go back in. And I've been using externals for quite a few years. I've used many different brands. I've used Fluval, Orazi, I've used Hydra, and I just prefer Eheim. I know they're expensive, they're very good durability, very good sign of how the flow goes through the filter, which is a really good thing. This, I use the Professional 4 Plus series, and this is the 250. I would say, although they say they can cope with tanks of about 200 litres, I think maybe up to 250, I wouldn't. I would go with the largest possible, because you'll be cleaning this a lot. So I actually have one of these backed up, one of these on a 200 litre with a 600, and it does need cleaning a lot. It's not a design flaw, it's just the amount of waste that plecs produce. It's solid waste, and that's why, well, plecs mean Loricariidae, and some will produce more waste than others, and I clean them monthly. So I know people will have seen a lot of videos of how to put the media in your filter, and how to not hijack, maybe DIY it, make it better. And I would say those videos are great, but they're not really designed for plecs. The thing is with plecs is that there's a lot of solid waste going in the tank or in the water straight away, and that can really hinder biological function. So I'm just going to open this external, and this might be my oldest one. The only thing I'd say with Eheim is they do have priming issues. There's plenty of different ways to manage priming issues. I have a pump thing, water barrel pump that I put down the inlet end, and that will start priming it, or you can suck on the outlet end. There's plenty of different ways. You can suck on the outlet end and have it below the water level. You've got to be quick with it. But anyway, so these filters, so you have this area, which is the main head. Generally I don't clean the impellers much, and I don't find it causes too many issues on these. Some need a lot more cleaning, so I would recommend checking at least sort of once a year or so, checking on your impeller, because they are often not covered by warranty, and the ceramic shafts are quite delicate because they're moving parts. And that's for most things. It's always good to have a replacement. So a lot of people buy media and are like, there's all these things about buying different media, and don't ever buy the ones that come with don't ever use the ones that come with the filter. And I would disagree personally. The thing is with surface area is that how much of that surface area is accessible to bacteria. So a lot of the nitrophile bacteria, they need oxygen to actually, well, because of how, if you look at a nitrogen cycle, it's adding oxygen onto the molecules. So you want as much, sort of, the surface area, you want, I guess, it to be larger. If you look at this, only the outside is likely to be used. This, I would say, has maybe a little more. It's difficult to say, because, and I don't think you can even quantify. The thing is have it saying getting this, alpha gog, all of them are going to have the same amount of bacteria, because the amount of bacteria is dictated by how much fish waste there is. So I think, and I'm a big supporter of sponges or anything I can replace. It's a bit more environmentally friendly. So I tend to use what comes with it. I don't like throwing away. So generally this is the pre-filter. This, not all filters have a pre-filter, not all have one like this. This I just use what came with it, and this is just a sponge. And I believe it's a wet dry pre-filter because when you fill it, there's a valve that will just pop through that. So I assume, and this takes out a lot of the initial solid waste, so I find this really useful. And I'll put it on my hand, there we go. And that's the first chamber that the water will go through. The next is here, and I've taken out a lot of this because this is the one I've run, and then because I got the 600, I was like, I don't really need to set them up, but I don't want to sell it because they're useful, and although these tend to hold their price better than other filters, second-hand market, I'd rather keep it. So this one will naturally come with these ceramic ball things, and generally a fleece. And you'll see in a lot of videos they recommend putting the fleece at the end, so as the water exits the filter, it goes through the fleece first. In plecs, catfishes, I actually recommend the opposite. I know you'll be probably cleaning and replacing the floss a lot more, but the floss will take out the fine waste before it reaches any of the real biological media. This waste will clog the biological media and therefore reduce the efficiency of the bacteria, and generally I would say you're replacing the fleece, but you're probably not cleaning the actual biological media as much. And traditionally I did use a lot more sponges than I did and these I do find easier to clean. You just put it under and out, and the fleece I replace. So this is the second chamber, and at the bottom chamber, a lot of people don't like these. These are in the bag because they came loose, and I was like, oh, I need somewhere to put it, because so these go at the bottom. The only issue with these is they do float, so I find you do lose a little bit over time. On the larger models they have another ceramic chamber before this. These are all biological, and generally any surface will allow for biological media to grow. And I would say personally, this is probably just as good at biological filtration. And plastics last forever, so one thing I will say, that obviously the flow rate of the filter is really important. That's the turnover, that's what's turning over the filter. So I always make sure, so I always make sure for plecs in general I have about sort of 10 times the tank volume in flow rate. A filter will never produce enough flow for the majority of species. I'd always add a power head in, and I like these. They're actually on my tank, so I don't really want to pull them off. But these are the Eheim power diffusers, Venturi I think they're sometimes called. So these you attach to the outlet, and I don't use a spray bar. This is like a diffuser, so it pushes air as well out, and I find that's really helpful, not just really flow, but just for producing enough, movement. It really forces it out. I don't know if it causes back pressure, that might be another thing. But generally filters, I tend to always say it depends on the filter and it depends on the initial setup when it comes to cleaning. So I clean mine every 4 weeks exactly, because I'm weird like that. And I shouldn't really close it opposite side, you should do it the other way, but oh well. So you could be cleaning them every few months, every week. Generally I'd say when you first set up a filter and a tank, or filters and tank, clean it after a month, check it. If it's filthy, then you might have to clean a bit more frequently. If it's still clear or clearer, you won't have to clean it as as much. Some do need a lot more maintenance, like there was a biomass. I found the pre-filters needed clearing about every week. Depends on how much waste. So I found, I think the discus had a lot less because there's higher, no. The discus one had a lot more solid waste and would clog quickly and cut off the flow. Whereas these guys, it was a lot less. So it's a little bit, it's difficult to predict. But generally, I would say try different methods. There's no one way to put the filtration. I just prefer this way of adding the finer media first to stop clogging the rest of the bacteria. And generally I would say whenever replacing a filter or switching over a filter, always add the old media to the new filter and slowly replace that over time. If you're running two at the same time, then that bacteria is good. The population in general is going to be split between the two filters, and when you take one apart from the other, how do you know how much bacteria is actually in each of them, or the one that you actually take it apart? And that can cause mini cycles. So it's always worth really taking a good think about what you're doing when it comes to filtration. And it's only logical filters, so just sometimes think logically, and they aren't that complex. Externals are extremely easy to use, and I wouldn't worry just because it looks like it's a big bulky thing. They're pretty simple. Eheim's ones have been around for decades now. Some lasted, well, a lot of them last decades. Fluvals have been, they've done externals for decades. Ours is only new to the market, but they've been doing, I would say, pond equivalent of externals for that long. So really, if they were bad technology, they wouldn't be around, but then you could say that, and there's still a lot of dodgy aquarium technology around. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll be filming more videos. I've got plenty more specimens I'm preserving and got to do videos on. I've got some that are different sort of fishes, and most of them probably are, so I kind of work out what to do with them. Anyway, thank you for watching.